My half-sister announced her pregnancy and said, "Now you'll finally know what it's like, since you can't have your own." But when I opened my laptop, she started screaming. The message from my father arrived while I was in the middle of coaching 20 teenagers through their first competitive gaming tournament. My phone buzzed with his text, "Family announcement this weekend, your presence is required." My name is Avery, and that single message managed to derail my entire week. I hadn't been home in months, not since the last disastrous family dinner where my stepmother, Karen, had spent the entire evening showcasing my half-sister Claire's latest achievements while pointedly ignoring mine. "Miss Collins." One of my students waved frantically from their gaming station. "The server is acting weird again." I pocketed my phone, pushing aside the knot forming in my stomach. "Coming, Tommy." Remember, in tournament play we troubleshoot first, panic second. The rest of the day passed in a blur of technical issues and coaching sessions. By closing time, my phone had 3 missed calls from my father and another text. "This is important, Avery. Don't skip out like last time." That night, I sat cross-legged on my couch, staring at my phone while my fiancé Ethan cooked dinner in our small kitchen. "You're doing that thing again," he said, stirring something that smelled amazing. "The one where you overthink everything until your brain explodes." "I don't overthink," I muttered, then caught his knowing look. "Okay, fine. But Dad never demands family meetings. Something's up." "Maybe Claire finally learned how to tie her shoes without help," Ethan joked, then sobered when I didn't laugh. "Sorry, low blow." I sighed, remembering the last time I'd seen my younger half-sister. Claire had spent the entire evening making subtle digs about my little gaming club and how it must be so fulfilling to play with other people's children since I couldn't have any of my own. That particular barb still stung. "I should go," I said finally, if only to stop Dad from sending the National Guard after me. The drive to my childhood home that weekend felt longer than usual. Each mile marker brought back memories of growing up there after my mom died, of my grandmother Helen raising me while Dad was deployed, Claire's arrival when I was 12, and her mother Karen's immediate campaign to remake our family in her image. I pulled into the circular driveway, noting Claire's shiny new Mercedes parked in my usual spot. "Of course." Dad opened the door before I could knock. "You're late." "Hello to you too," I said, accepting his awkward hug. He smelled the same as always, Old Spice and coffee. Some things never changed. The living room was exactly as I remembered it, down to the family photos on the wall. I noticed with a twinge that grandmother Helen's portrait had been moved to a less prominent spot. Claire sat in Helen's old armchair like she owned it, while Karen perched on the armrest beside her. They both wore matching expressions of barely concealed satisfaction that made my skin crawl. "Now that we're all here," Dad cleared his throat, "Claire has some news." My sister's hand drifted to her stomach in a gesture that made my heart sink before she even opened her mouth. "I'm pregnant," Claire announced, her smile sharp as a knife. "You're going to be an aunt, Avery. Isn't that wonderful? Now you'll finally get to experience what it's like to have a baby in the family, even if it's not quite the same as having your own." The room went silent. I felt the familiar sting of tears threatening to form but forced them back. Claire's words hung in the air like poison, perfectly crafted to hit where it hurt most. Dad shifted uncomfortably. "We thought you should hear it in person. Family first, right?" I managed a tight smile even as my fingers curled into fists at my sides. "Congratulations," I said, the word tasting like ash in my mouth. "If you'll excuse me, I need some air." As I walked out onto the porch, I heard Karen's voice drift through the open window. "She's always been dramatic. Don't let her ruin your moment, sweetheart." I leaned against the railing, letting the cool evening air clear my head. Something in me had shifted, hardened. This wasn't just about the baby announcement, this was about years of subtle cruelty, calculated jabs, and manufactured competitions. My phone buzzed, a text from Ethan. "You okay?" I wasn't, but I would be because for the first time in my life, I was done playing nice. I didn't expect Dad to follow me onto the porch, but there he was, closing the screen door behind him with that familiar careful quietness, the same way he used to check on me after Mom died. "Your grandma used to stand right there," he said, gesturing to where I was leaning against the railing watching storms roll in. I remember. I didn't add that I also remembered how Helen was the only one who stood up to Karen when she tried to redecorate the entire house claiming the porch furniture was too country. "The wicker chairs are still here," Dad said, a small victory in a war of attrition. "Karen's organizing a baby shower next month," Dad said neutrally. "Of course she is, the same house where Helen raised me, where I'd spent countless hours reading in the window seat that Karen later converted into a display case for Claire's cheerleading trophies." "You don't have to come," he added quickly. "Don't I?" I turned to face him. "Won't it look bad if the aunt doesn't show up? Won't Karen have something to say about that?" He flinched. "Avery." The screen door creaked open and Claire waddled out, one hand on her barely visible bump. "Daddy, Mom wants to know if you'll grab more wine from the cellar, the good stuff, not the cheap bottles Avery brought last time." I hadn't brought any wine last time, Claire knew that. "Sure, princess." Dad disappeared inside, leaving us alone. Claire's sweet smile dropped the instant he was gone. "You know you could at least pretend to be happy for me." "I'm happy for you," I lied, thrilled even. "Really?" "Because you stormed out pretty quickly after my announcement." "I needed air." "You needed attention," she corrected, moving closer just like always. Poor infertile Avery can't stand someone else being the center of attention for once. My nails dug into my palms. Is that what you think this is about? I think it's about what everything's always been about with you, jealousy, she laughed, the sound like breaking glass. You're jealous that I can have what you can't, that I'm giving Dad his first grandchild, that Mom loves me more than. Karen isn't my mother. I cut in sharply. And Helen left me the house. Claire's face went white. What? I hadn't meant to say it. The paperwork had arrived last week, Helen's final gift held in trust until my 28th birthday. I'd been waiting for the right time to tell everyone, but Claire's smug superiority had cracked something in me. The house is mine, I said, my words tasting like victory. Grandmother Helen left it to me in her will. I get full ownership next month. Claire's hands trembled. You're lying. Ask Dad, he's known for years. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. So maybe you should rethink having your baby shower here. Wouldn't want to impose. The screen door slammed open. Karen stood there with her face twisted with rage. I heard everything, she hissed. How dare you? How dare I what? Inherit my grandmother's house? Claire's pregnant, this is her moment and you're trying to ruin it with your spiteful little power play. Karen glared at me as Dad appeared behind her holding a wine bottle. What's going on? Your daughter is trying to kick us out of our home. That's not what I said. I protested, but Claire was already crying, her hands protectively covering her stomach. The stress isn't good for the baby, she sobbed. She's trying to hurt my baby. Dad looked between us, lost. Avery, maybe we should discuss this another time. Of course, I said quietly. Take care of your pregnant daughter, it's what you do best. I walked to my car, ignoring Karen's continued accusations and Dad's weak attempts to call me back. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like.